What if one slip of the tongue changed everything? Prince Harry, known for speaking his mind, may have gone too far this time. A casual remark has ignited a frenzy, fueling speculation beyond anything the Sussexes have faced before. Within minutes, the internet dissected every word, expression, and pause. Was this just media hype, or did Harry accidentally confirm a royal secret? Why have Meghan and Harry stayed silent as the controversy spirals? And most importantly, did Harry just reveal the truth about his kids? Buckle up, this is about to get wild. Prince Harry has always been known for his candor. Unlike the traditionally reserved members of the royal family, he has built a reputation for speaking his mind, sometimes to his own detriment. But this time, things were different. This time, he may have said too much. It started as an ordinary conversation, an interview meant to shed light on his life after leaving the royal family. The tone was casual, the questions straightforward. He spoke about fatherhood, about the joys and challenges of raising his children away from the constant glare of palace life. His words flowed naturally, as they always did. But then, it happened. A single remark so offhanded that even he may not have realized the gravity of it at the time. Well, it's not like we always have them around. Sometimes they're just not here when we need them. For a split second, the interviewer hesitated. It was subtle, just a flicker of surprise, an almost imperceptible pause. But at that moment, the energy in the room shifted. The conversation moved forward, as if nothing had happened. The interviewer, a seasoned professional, kept the discussion on track. Harry, unaware of the storm he had just set in motion, continued speaking. But outside that interview room, things were about to spiral out of control. The internet caught it first. Within minutes, social media was ablaze. The clip was posted, shared, dissected, frame by frame. It wasn't just the words. People analyzed Harry's tone, his expression, even the way he shifted in his seat after saying it. Was it just an innocent comment about the challenges of parenting? Or had he revealed something much bigger? The speculation began immediately. Some dismissed it outright. He was probably talking about the difficulties of juggling work and family life, they said. But others weren't so sure. Why the hesitation? Why had the interviewer reacted that way? And why, in all the time that Harry had spoken about his children, had he never phrased it like this before? News outlets picked up the story within hours. Headlines ranged from skeptical curiosity to full-blown alarm. Did Prince Harry just confirm the Sussex children don't live with them? The strange truth about Archie and Lilibet? Did Harry let it slip? By the time morning arrived in London, the royal family had already been made aware of the situation. The press offices at Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace were flooded with requests for clarification. But there was no official response, just silence. And that silence only fueled the fire. Because this wasn't the first time people had questioned the Sussex children's unusual level of privacy. Ever since Harry and Meghan welcomed their first child, Prince Archie, in 2019, they had handled his public appearances very differently from royal tradition. Unlike Prince William and Princess Kate, who had introduced each of their children to the world on the steps of the hospital shortly after birth, Harry and Meghan had opted for something far more private. No traditional public christening. No disclosure of his godparents' names. When their daughter, Princess Lilibet, was born at 2021, they followed an even stricter approach. Very few details were shared. Even the official announcement was carefully worded, giving away as little as possible. At first, the explanation seemed simple. They had left royal life behind. They wanted to raise their children away from the pressures of the monarchy. It made sense until people started noticing something strange. Unlike other royals, Archie and Lilibet were almost never seen in public. The few images that did surface seemed carefully curated, professionally released rather than spontaneous. While other royal children were caught on camera at sporting events, royal engagements, or simply out with their parents, Archie and Lilibet were virtually invisible. And now, Harry himself had said something that seemed to confirm suspicions. For years, whispers had circulated in the shadowy corners of the internet. Theories ranged from the mundane to the outright bizarre. Some believed Meghan and Harry had simply gone to extreme lengths to protect their children from the press. Others took a more conspiratorial approach, suggesting that their children were being raised in a separate, undisclosed location, away from both the monarchy and the public eye. And now people were asking, Had Harry just accidentally confirmed it? The pressure mounted quickly. Calls for an official statement grew louder. Social media users demanded clarity. News anchors speculated openly on air. Theories spiraled in every direction. And still, the palace remained silent. Even Meghan and Harry's official spokesperson had yet to comment. The longer they waited, the worse it got. Then, something strange happened. Major media outlets, those usually careful with royal reporting, began digging deeper. Archival footage was reviewed, old interviews re-examined. People started noticing small inconsistencies in how Harry and Meghan had spoken about their children over the years, moments where they had been vague, where their responses had seemed rehearsed. A pattern emerged, one that had been overlooked until now. Why were there so few natural sightings of Archie and Lilibet? Why were their media appearances so tightly controlled? And most importantly, if Harry had meant nothing by his words, why hadn't he or Meghan clarified things yet? For the first time since stepping away from royal life, the Sussexes found themselves in a crisis they hadn't orchestrated. But inside Buckingham Palace, this wasn't just another scandal. This was a direct threat to the institution. As the speculation raged on, officials within the royal household began preparing for what could come next. Damage control meetings were scheduled. Senior advisors scrambled to assess the potential fallout. If Harry had truly revealed something the public wasn't supposed to know, the palace would have to act fast. But what exactly was the truth? Had Prince Harry simply misspoken? Or had he just accidentally leaked the whole damn thing about his kids? The world wanted answers. And it seemed like, for now, no one was willing to give them. The reaction was swift. Within hours of Harry's comment going viral, the media machine went into overdrive. Every major news outlet dissected his words, speculating about what he might have meant. Online forums, social media threads, and even mainstream commentators began pulling together past interviews, photos, and statements to piece together a timeline. And the more they looked, the stranger things seemed. Because, as it turned out, this wasn't the first time people had raised questions about the Sussex children. Ever since Prince Harry and Meghan Markle had stepped back from royal duties in 2020, they had taken extreme measures to shield their children from the public eye. Unlike Prince William and Princess Kate, who had embraced their roles as public figures while still protecting their children, Harry and Meghan had chosen near total secrecy. At first, it seemed like a reasonable decision. They had fought tirelessly to escape the royal fishbowl, so why wouldn't they want to give their kids a normal life away from the press? But now, people were starting to question whether there was more to it than just privacy. When Prince Archie was born in May 2019, royal tradition dictated that there would be an official hospital photo, just as there had been for Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. But Harry and Meghan did things differently. Instead of a grand public debut, they released a carefully controlled photograph from Windsor Castle, showing only a glimpse of their newborn son. Then came Archie's christening, another royal tradition, one that usually involved official photos and a carefully documented ceremony attended by senior royals. But once again, the Sussexes did things their own way. There were no public pictures of the event itself, no open guest list, and the names of Archie's godparents were never disclosed. For some, this was a refreshing break from tradition. For others, it was the first sign that Harry and Meghan were operating on a different set of rules. And then there was Lilibet. Born in June 2021, she arrived amid the height of the royal rift. By this time, Harry and Meghan had fully relocated to California, and their relationship with the royal family was at an all-time low. When the birth announcement was made, it was unusually vague. No hospital details, no official photos, just a carefully worded statement from the Sussexes team. It wasn't just the secrecy itself that caught people's attention. It was how methodically it was enforced. While William and Kate occasionally released candid family photos, Harry and Meghan's children were almost entirely absent from the public record. The rare times they were seen, the images appeared polished, controlled, and highly selective. At first, people accepted this as part of the couple's new life. But now, after Harry's comment, some were starting to wonder, was there a reason they had gone to such extreme lengths to keep their children away from the public eye? The media storm intensified. Commentators, journalists, and even royal insiders weighed in. Some dismissed the speculation as nothing more than internet hysteria, fueled by the natural curiosity surrounding a high-profile royal couple, but others weren't so sure. The conversation quickly turned to the strained relationship between the Sussexes and the rest of the royal family. Because while Harry and Meghan had tried to carve out an independent path, their connection to the monarchy had never truly been severed. From the moment he was born, Harry had lived his life under the weight of royal expectations. As the younger son of King Charles III and the late Princess Diana, he was never meant to be king. That role had always belonged to his older brother, Prince William. But that didn't mean he was free from responsibility. The public had adored Harry in his younger years. He was the fun-loving, mischievous prince, the rebellious counterpart to William's more serious and duty-bound nature. But as he grew older, that reputation came with consequences. Harry had been at the center of multiple scandals, from wearing a controversial costume at a party to being caught in compromising situations during his wild years. And while the royal family had always worked to contain the fallout, there was an unspoken rule that he would eventually have to find his place within the system. Then Meghan came along. From the very beginning, she was different. An American actress, outspoken, independent, and unafraid to challenge the royal establishment. Their whirlwind romance seemed like something out of a modern fairy tale. But behind the scenes, tensions were brewing. By the time they announced their engagement in 2017, Meghan was already facing relentless scrutiny. The British tabloids tore into her past, her family history, even the way she carried herself. And while Harry defended her at every turn, it was clear that their relationship was causing deep fractures within the monarchy. Their wedding in 2018 was a grand spectacle, watched by millions. But even on that day, the cracks were visible. Meghan's father was absent. Rumors of conflicts with Kate Middleton had already begun circulating. And behind the royal smiles and waving crowds, there was an undeniable sense of unease. It didn't take long for everything to unravel. By 2019, reports of behind-the-scenes tensions had reached a boiling point. Stories emerged about Meghan clashing with palace staff, disagreements over protocol, and growing frustration over the couple's treatment by the press. Then, in early 2020, they made the unprecedented announcement, stepping back as senior royals and relocating to North America. It was a move that sent shockwaves through the monarchy. And it wasn't just about their departure, it was about the way they left. The couple's statement made it clear that they were choosing a new life, free from the constraints of royal duty. But their decision also created a divide that seemed impossible to bridge. When they sat down for a tell-all interview with Oprah Winfrey on March 2021, the world finally got a glimpse into the extent of their grievances. They spoke of racism, of feeling unsupported, of the emotional toll that royal life had taken on them. Meghan revealed that at one point, she had struggled with suicidal thoughts. Harry described the pain of feeling trapped within the institution. The interview was explosive. It deepened the divide between the Sussexes and the royal family. And yet, even with all the revelations, there was still one thing they kept firmly out of the conversation: their children. Now, years later, that decision was being questioned. Because despite their insistence on privacy, despite their careful curation of their public image, one slip of the tongue had reignited everything. And Buckingham Palace was watching. Inside the royal household, discussions were already underway. While they had long since distanced themselves from Harry and Meghan's choices, any controversy surrounding the Sussexes still reflected on the monarchy. Senior aides were already drafting responses. But the bigger question remained: would the palace address the situation, or would they let the storm rage on, hoping it would burn itself out? Because if history had proven anything, it was that once a royal scandal started, it never truly disappeared. And for Prince Harry, the fallout was only just beginning. The controversy surrounding Prince Harry's comment refused to die down. If anything, it only intensified. Social media was still buzzing with speculation. News anchors debated the possible implications, and even royal commentators, many of whom had dismissed past rumors, found themselves questioning the situation. There was something about Harry's words that had struck a nerve, something that had reignited long-standing curiosity about his children. It wasn't just about what he had said. It was about what it confirmed. For years, there had been speculation about the way Harry and Meghan handled their children's public appearances. Their approach was unlike anything seen before in royal history. While privacy had always been a concern for royal parents, there had also been a long-standing tradition of controlled transparency. William and Kate had released official photos of their children, taken them to public events, and allowed occasional glimpses into their family life. Harry and Meghan, on the other hand, had taken a completely different route. From the very beginning, they had enforced near-total secrecy, ensuring that Archie and Lilibet remained largely unseen by the public. There were no candid photos, no traditional public milestones, and the rare images that were released appeared meticulously staged. At first, this was seen as nothing more than an attempt to shield their children from the media frenzy that had plagued their own lives. But now, people were starting to wonder if there was another reason behind it. Theories began surfacing once again. Some claimed that the Sussex children were being raised in a separate, undisclosed location, away from both royal and public life. Others speculated that the couple had gone to extraordinary lengths to control their narrative, ensuring that only carefully curated moments of their children's lives were ever seen. One thing was certain: the secrecy surrounding Archie and Lilibet was unprecedented. When Archie was born in May 2019, there were already indications that Harry and Meghan would be taking a different approach to parenting. Unlike previous royal births, which had been celebrated with public announcements outside the hospital, the Sussexes chose complete privacy. Meghan did not appear on the hospital steps with her newborn son, as Kate had done with each of her 3 children. Instead, the first glimpse of Archie came 2 days later, in a controlled photo shoot at Windsor Castle. Then there was Archie's christening, another break from royal tradition. The ceremony was held in private, with no media presence. The guest list remained undisclosed, and the identities of his godparents were never revealed. It was a stark contrast to the royal norm, where christenings were typically semi-public events attended by senior royals and followed by official photographs. With Lilibet's birth on June 2021, the secrecy only deepened. Unlike Archie, she wasn't even born in the United Kingdom. The announcement of her arrival was minimal, with no hospital details provided. There were no official photos, no confirmation of who had been present at her birth, and very little follow-up from the couple themselves. By the time Lilibet was a year old, questions had already begun circulating about why she had never been seen publicly. Even during major royal events, such as the Platinum Jubilee in 2022, there were no official images of her with the royal family. While it was later revealed that a private birthday party had been held for her at Frogmore Cottage, the absence of any unplanned public sightings only added fuel to the speculation. Many began to wonder if there was nothing unusual about their situation. Why had the Sussexes gone to such great lengths to prevent their children from being seen? Theories surrounding royal children were not new. Over the years, there had been various rumors about hidden heirs, secret adoptions, and unacknowledged royal descendants. But this was different. This was happening in real time, involving one of the most talked-about royal couples in modern history. And now, with Harry's unintentional comment, it felt like a crack had formed in the tightly controlled image that he and Meghan had worked so hard to maintain. The response, or lack thereof, from the Sussexes only made things worse. In the past, when faced with media speculation, Harry and Meghan had been quick to set the record straight. When false stories had been published about their personal lives, they had issued statements, filed lawsuits, or spoken directly to the press. This time they said nothing. No clarification, no public rebuttal, no carefully worded explanation. And in their silence, the speculation only grew louder. Royal commentators began revisiting past interviews and statements made by the couple. Patterns began to emerge. The way Harry had often been vague when discussing his children, the way Meghan had carefully steered conversations away from direct questions about them. Even the way their photographs had been released, often through personal friends or independent photographers rather than traditional media sources, suggested an unusual level of control. Inside Buckingham Palace, the situation was being closely monitored. While the royal family had distanced itself from the Sussexes, any controversy involving Harry and Meghan still reflected on the monarchy as a whole. Senior aides were well aware that this story wasn't going to disappear on its own. The longer it remained unresolved, the greater the risk that it could snowball into a full-blown crisis. The question now was whether Buckingham Palace should intervene or if they should let Harry and Meghan handle the damage control on their own. There were whispers among royal insiders that the palace might be preparing to make a rare public statement. If the situation escalated further, there was even speculation that the king could be forced to address the matter directly. But there was also another possibility, one that some within the palace favored over direct confrontation. What if they simply let public pressure force the Sussexes into responding? By refusing to engage with the controversy, the palace could make it clear that this was Harry and Meghan's problem to deal with. If the couple wanted to clear the air, they would have to address it themselves. And that posed an even bigger challenge. Because at this point, no response from Harry and Meghan would be fully believed. If they denied any wrongdoing, would people accept their words at face value? Or would they assume it was just another attempt at damage control? If they chose to stay silent, would the story continue to spiral out of control? And if Buckingham Palace truly decided to let them handle it on their own, how long could they afford to wait before the damage became irreversible? As the media continued to speculate and as public curiosity grew stronger, one thing was becoming increasingly clear. This wasn't just another royal controversy. This was a turning point, and whatever happened next could redefine the way the world saw Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and the legacy they were trying to build. The question was, how would they respond? And did they even have a way out? Inside Buckingham Palace, tension was mounting. While the royal family had distanced itself from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's decisions, this controversy was different. It wasn't about past grievances or royal duties, it was about their children. And that made it impossible to ignore. Crisis meetings were held as senior aides debated their response. Should they dismiss the rumors outright or remain silent and hope the speculation faded? Silence had been the monarchy's long-standing strategy, but this time, it wasn't working. The longer they stayed quiet, the more the media speculated. Prince William, already frustrated with his brother, reportedly wanted the palace to shift the narrative behind the scenes. Meanwhile, King Charles III took a cautious approach, knowing that any reaction could escalate the situation further. Then came the question of titles. Since stepping back, Harry and Meghan had retained their Duke and Duchess of Sussex status. Some courtiers saw this as the perfect moment to finally strip them of their royal titles, arguing that their public controversies were damaging the monarchy. Others warned that such a move could backfire, giving them more ammunition to claim victimhood. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan remained silent. Their reluctance to address the controversy only fueled more speculation. In the past, they had been quick to counter misinformation, whether through legal action or public statements. But now, there was nothing. No denial, no explanation, not even an attempt to redirect the narrative. That silence spoke volumes. Inside Montecito, Meghan was reportedly frustrated. She had carefully curated their post-royal image, ensuring that every public appearance and statement was controlled. Now, with one slip of the tongue, everything was unraveling. The media scrutiny she had fought so hard to shield her children from had found its way back, and this time, she had no way to stop it. Harry, in contrast, seemed less concerned. He believed the news cycle would move on as it always did. But the problem was, it wasn't fading. Theories were growing, journalists were digging deeper, and their silence was only making things worse. Behind the palace walls, some aides suggested that public pressure might force the Sussexes to respond. If they wanted the speculation to die down, they would have to clear the air themselves. It was a risky strategy, but it had worked before, allowing the monarchy to distance itself from drama while placing the responsibility on Harry and Meghan. The bigger question remained, how long could they afford to wait? Every passing day made the controversy harder to contain. And if Harry and Meghan didn't act soon, they might find themselves trapped in a scandal they could no longer escape. The longer the controversy dragged on, the worse it became. What had started as a single offhand remark from Prince Harry had snowballed into a full-blown media storm. News outlets continued dissecting every possible interpretation of his words, while social media users dug up past interviews, searching for any clues that might support their theories. But the real issue wasn't just what Harry had said, it was the fact that no one was correcting the record. The Sussexes, known for aggressively pushing back against misleading narratives, remained completely silent. Buckingham Palace, usually quick to distance itself from anything controversial, refused to engage. The absence of an official response made one thing clear. Nobody wanted to touch this story. By this point, the damage was already done. Despite having spent years crafting their own narrative, Harry and Meghan had suddenly lost control of the conversation. Speculation about their children was no longer confined to tabloids or online forums. It had become mainstream discussion. Even credible news sources, which had previously dismissed conspiracy theories about Archie and Lilibet, were now asking why the couple had chosen not to address the rumors head-on. Inside Montecito, the tension was rising. Sources suggested that Meghan was deeply frustrated by the way things had unfolded. The couple had fought relentlessly to keep their children out of the public eye. Yet here they were, at the center of a controversy they hadn't planned for. The very thing they had tried to avoid had come crashing down on them, and this time, they had no way to control it. For Meghan, this was more than just bad press. It was a personal failure. She had meticulously managed every aspect of their post-royal life, ensuring that the world only saw what they wanted it to see. Now, all of that effort had been undone by one careless remark from Harry. She had always known that her husband's honesty could be both an asset and a liability. In interviews, his raw emotion and unfiltered thoughts had made him relatable. But now, his words had become a problem, not just for their public image, but for their family. Harry, on the other hand, seemed less concerned. Those close to him suggested that he believed the controversy would fade on its own. He had spent his entire life dealing with media storms. He knew how quickly the public's attention could shift. One scandal would soon be replaced by another. All they had to do was wait. But what he didn't realize was that this time was different. This was no longer just about him or Meghan. This was about their children. And when it came to children, especially royal children, the world wasn't so quick to forget. At Buckingham Palace, the royal family was watching closely. While they had refrained from addressing the situation publicly, they knew it wasn't going away. Privately, there were concerns. Some aides believed that if the Sussexes didn't put an end to the speculation soon, the monarchy itself might be forced to step in. Others, however, saw this as an opportunity. If Harry and Meghan were struggling to maintain their credibility, why should the palace intervene? For years, the Sussexes had distanced themselves from royal life, frequently criticizing the institution and its inner workings. Now they were facing their biggest crisis yet, and they were handling it alone. Some within the palace viewed this as a test of their independence. If they wanted to exist outside the monarchy, they would have to manage their own public perception without royal intervention. In the days that followed, the pressure on the Sussexes grew. News outlets published deeper investigative pieces into their past decisions regarding Archie and Lilibet. Articles questioning the lack of organic public appearances for the children resurfaced. Even royal commentators, who had once dismissed the idea that the couple was hiding something, were now saying that their continued silence was making things worse. Finally, a statement came. It was brief, almost too brief. A spokesperson for the Sussexes issued a one-line dismissal, stating that speculation about their children was unfounded and unnecessary. But it was too little, too late. The damage had been done. Instead of shutting down the rumors, the vague nature of the statement only fueled further speculation. If there was truly nothing to hide, why hadn't they been more direct? Why not issue a strong and clear rebuttal instead of a cold, detached remark? The internet didn't buy it. Social media users pointed out how defensive Harry and Meghan had been in the past when it came to false reporting. If they had no problem suing newspapers over misleading stories, why were they refusing to address this one properly? More questions emerged than answers. At Buckingham Palace, the response was more calculated. Some saw the Sussexes' weak rebuttal as an opportunity to move on. After all, if they refused to give the media more to speculate on, the story might naturally fade. Others, however, saw this as a significant turning point. Harry and Meghan had always relied on public sympathy to maintain their influence. But for the first time, public trust was wavering. By refusing to directly address the rumors, they had inadvertently given critics what they wanted: a reason to doubt their credibility. And that doubt would linger. Even as the media cycle eventually moved on, the damage was permanent. The questions surrounding Archie and Lilibet's privacy wouldn't disappear. The narrative that had been built over years, of a couple seeking peace, freedom, and a better future for their children, was now marked by uncertainty. For the first time since stepping away from royal life, Harry and Meghan had truly lost control of their own story. And in the world of public perception, once control is lost, it is nearly impossible to regain. The royal family knew this well, and now so did they. With that, we have reached the end of today's video. If you have come this far with us, be sure to check out other videos on the channel.